Okay, so I'm just gonna go over a little bit on these stem and leaf, which is what we have here. I know y'all have already done this the other day with Miss Sorensen, but I'm just gonna talk about a few other things. Okay, so just wanted to remind you, when you look at this problem right here, and it says how many scores are greater than 20. When it says greater than, that means we are not including that number 20. Of course, there's not a 20 on here, but if there were, greater than means not including, or less than means you would not be including the 20, okay? But if it was flipped and said 20 or greater, then we would count that 20 in the answer, okay? Or if it said 20 or less, we would also count that, okay? So just remember that it's all about the wording. Okay, so we're going to forget the question right now, and I'm going to ask you a separate question. So forget what it says there. Using this stem and leaf right here, if I asked you, what's the total number of points scored in the carnival game, what would you do to find the total? Okay, you're going to add up all the points, right? All right, so if I'm looking at this first line, the stem is 0 and the leaf is 6, which means it's just the whole number 6, and then 7, and then 7. Well, if you add those together, you get the number 20, okay? So if I'm looking for a total, I need to add up each stem and its leaves. So here, I'm not adding 1, I'm adding 10. So I'm going to put a 10. 11, 11, and then 12. Okay, so if I'm looking for the total, I'm not adding the leaves. I'm adding the whole number. Okay, so that's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 10 plus 11 plus 11 plus 12 is 44. Okay, so if I'm looking for a total number of points scored, I have to add all these numbers, which means I'm adding 10 plus 11 plus 11 plus 12, 6 plus 7 plus 7. So now I'm going to add 22 plus 24. 4 plus 2 is 6. 2 plus 2 is 4. So that's 46. And now I'm going to do 30 plus 32 plus 32. So 30, 32, 32. 2 plus 2 is 4. 3, 6, 9. Okay, so I see now that each row or stem and its leaves has a number. Now, to get my final total, I'm going to add all these numbers together. So 94, 46, 44, and 20. 6 plus 4 is 10, plus 4 is 14. 9 plus 1 is 10, plus 4 is 14, plus 4 more is 18, plus 2 is 20. So if I were asking you what's the total number of points scored in carnival games, the answer would be 204. Okay? Because I'm adding every number. 6, 7, 7, plus 10, plus 11, plus 11, plus 12, plus 22, plus 24, plus 30, plus 32, plus 32. Okay? You could have listed all of those numbers. You could have said 6, 7, 7, 10, 11, 11, 12. But when you continue adding all that, that's where you're going to start making mistakes. That's why I said just add one row at a time and then add them all up. Okay, so let's look at this one now. On this one, again, we're not looking at the question, just the stem and leaf. If I said what's the sum of the greatest and least, sum means you're going to add. The greatest is 96. The least is 65. So if I'm going to look for the sum of the greatest and the least numbers, I'm going to add 96 plus 65. That's 11. 9 plus 1 is 10, plus 6 is 16. So the sum of the greatest and least numbers is 161. If I said the difference between the highest and the lowest, notice it's just a little change in wording, but the highest is still 96, the lowest is still 65. If I'm looking for the difference, though, I'm subtracting. 6 minus 5 is 1. 9 minus 6 is 3. So the sum would be 161. Difference would be 31. Sum means add. Difference means subtract. Okay, so I'm going to use this one for the last question that I have. So it says guesses for number of marbles in a jar. So that means each one of these is a person's guess, right? So what's the difference between the number of guesses that are 68 and less and 85 and more? So I said 68 and less, so that means I'm going to include 68. So this many people guessed 68 or less, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 people, right? This is 85 or more, because I'm going to include 85 because I said 85 and more. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what's the difference in the number of people that guessed 68 or less and 85 and more? So it's a subtraction problem. 5 minus 4. So your answer would be 1. Okay? If you had this set of numbers, and I said, what is the difference between the number of students who did more than 46 push-ups? Okay, so more than 46, so I'm going to go 46. So I'm looking at all of these, right? These are all more than 46. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So what's the difference between the number of students who did more than 46? So this is our number of kids that did more than 46 push-ups, and the number of students who did fewer than 20. Fewer than 20, that means I'm not including 20. Okay? I would have said 20 or less. So fewer than 20 is those. So that's 4. So 9 kids did more than 46 push-ups, and 4 students did less than 20 push-ups. And if I said, what's the difference between, you're just going to subtract 9 minus 4. So your answer would be 5. Oh, sorry, you can't see it. Okay? So keep that in mind. The assignment that you have today is all the things that we've just talked about. Okay? How to find the total. And when you're finding the total, you use both the stem and the leaf. The sum of the greatest and the least. Okay? Which means you're adding. The difference between the highest and lowest, or greatest and least. Difference means you're subtracting. The difference between the least and the greatest, still subtracting. The difference between two sets of numbers. And then one of the questions tells you to create a dot plot. So it gives you the list of numbers, and then you just have to pick which of the answer choices is correct for that set of numbers. And then the last question, there's only 7 questions. The last question says, some of the 5th grade students recorded temperatures outside for 6 days in October. And it gives you the data. And you just have to figure out which chart fits the best. Okay? So it looks like this. You're looking to see which one of these matches the data that you have here. If one of these or 2 of these is not one that we have talked about, then process of elimination would say you would get rid of those. Okay? We've talked about bar graphs. We've talked about scatter plots. We've talked about, at least you have the notes on it. We've talked about dot plots. We've done frequency tables. And then stem and leaf. So 1 or 2 of those are graphs that we have not discussed in 5th grade. You discussed them in elementary, one of them. Okay? So just look through the information. Look at the data that you're given and see which one of these matches all the data. Okay? All right. Good luck.